Recently with one of my business partners about number one, um, documenting your process and why that's so important. And then number two, also balancing attachment, right? And so the bottom line is I had a conversation with my business partners recently, and she was distressed because she was trying to figure out, Juan, why do you go so hard on the importance of like commenting, on the importance of liking, on the importance of posting your activity, right? She was like, look, I don't understand why that's so absolutely necessary to scale and grow my business. And I said, look, I'm going to give you a couple perspectives, real quick, brief. Um, I don't have like an hour or 2 hours, right, to make sure that this is something that's exciting and make sure this is something that is going to be like super inspirational, motivational. But I'm going to get real like granular and practical, right? And then the other discussion we had was talking about balancing attachment, right? When you bring on new business partners, what's absolutely necessary to make sure that you don't lose your mind and your soul and stress out when people don't meet your expectations. So let's start with the first thing that we talked about, right? And when she asked me, why are you so gung ho? Why are you so dogmatic and persistent about showing up in group me, showing up in text messages, and showing up in terms of posting your activity and for the world to see? And what I shared was a couple things. Number one, I said, look, I want you to pretend for a moment, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, right? I think this is applicable regardless of what entrepreneur endeavor you're in. But I want you to pretend that you're responsible for a team of 500, 50, 100, or 3,000 partners, right? And here's the thing. When your business begins to scale, when it begins to grow, right? And once again, I'm going to ask you to really ask yourself, if you want your business to scale and grow, reverse engineer it and ask yourself, what's going to be required for me to build culture? What's going to be required for me to build the right habits? What's going to be required to build the right mindset for the business to grow away from? Because here's the bottom line. You're not going to have the bandwidth to mentor, never mind 10 people, 100 people, 500 people, 3,000 people, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to put in place to make sure that everybody understands what's required to be successful in the endeavor, right? If you want to scale and you want to grow, right? So you've made up your mind that I don't want to be a self-employed person. I want to build a business that one day grows away from me, right? Where I can really operate as a CEO, a person that creates environments of opportunity, as opposed to a person that has to wake up every single day. And if you're not doing the work, things don't happen, right? And so I want you to start there with that framework. And once again, it's going to be very difficult for you to turn around and try to mentor that many people. 5 people is enough, but I'm talking about mentoring 50 people. I mean, it's just going to be out of your bandwidth, right? So what I said to her is simply this. You have to lay down a track for people to run on. You have to document your process. And that's one of the biggest mistakes new entrepreneurs make. You take for granted that your process and your activity is important. Because here's the bottom line. When people hear about your story, right, they say there's no overnight successes. There's just successful people that you learn about overnight. You end up meeting them by the time they have achieved the success, right? They have the veneer, if you will. And that's exciting. That's motivating. That's inspirational. But for the people who are really willing to get in the dirt with you, they need to understand, what did you do to get there? Right. And that's why it's so absolutely important, right? You can't rely upon people seeing the finished product and understanding what's necessary to be successful, because all they see is a finished product. And they may see the finished product and they say, I can't identify with you. I'm not where you're at right now, right? I'm struggling. I'm a single parent. I'm working 2 and 3 jobs. I'm going to school, working a job, and taking care of kids. And by the time you're the finished product, you got assistants, you have systems in place, you've invested in certain things. It makes it a lot easier, right? So let's talk about that, right? Here's the other thing too. You can talk to people until you're blue in the face. But once you choose leadership, and I would be more specific or more granular, once you choose exampleship, you learn as an entrepreneur that being successful is not talking about telling people, it's about showing people. It's a show me business, right? People don't care what you say, they want to see what you did to get there, right? So often business owners and entrepreneurs dismiss this very important part of the process. New entrepreneurs and new partners, once again, they're not so much interested in your postulations about what works because they're going to assume that you're in a different place. They're going to assume that you can't relate to them. They're going to assume that they have to achieve some type of Herculean feat that is out of their bandwidth to be successful. And that's why documenting your process from the beginning is so absolutely important, right? When people join you in business, particularly when you're first starting out, they're at their highest level of excitement, but their lowest level of competency. And then the world is going to beat them down. It's going to beat them up, right? And they're going to lose the confidence and have to rely upon competency. And the bottom line is most of them are going to be looking for evidence to see what's real, right? They're going to be looking for evidence to see that how do I get started? How do I have success? And so the reason why I'm so adamant about posting in GroupMe, posting in tech groups about your activity on a day-to-day basis, about what your KPIs are, the things you're taking aim at, and then what you accomplish at the end of the day, is because number one, it builds confidence that the system works, right? People can see that there's an actual track to run on. People can see that if I do this activity, if I do the things you've done, I can have success that you have before you become the millionaire, before you become the outstanding achiever, right? Before you become the person everybody's writing about, talking about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This piece is so absolutely important. Also, it builds competence. So when people see what work you did, what KPIs you took aim at, your approach to accomplishing these KPIs, it builds competence. They learn what to do on a daily basis. Oftentimes, new entrepreneurs are like, I got this great product, I got this great service, I'm excited about what it is that I'm doing, but I don't know what to do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, what happens after the business launch, right? What type of activities I need to be involved in on a day-to-day basis to make sure that I'm crushing it. And this is so absolutely important. And I'm telling you, this is not just a thing that happens in our organization. This happens across the board. Entrepreneurs, period, struggle with this. And that's why I'm having this conversation today, right? It builds credibility because most of the people who meet you, they don't know you. They don't know your track record. They don't know the price that you paid. They don't know the hole you had to climb out of to become the person that you are today, right? And because of so much BS.com. There's so many games being played via social media. People don't know what to believe anymore. They don't believe anything. And so when people can see your process, they can see the things that you went through to build your business. When you document those things, when you show up on a daily basis, it builds credibility. They're more willing to listen to you. They're more willing to pay attention to what it is you have to share because they know you weren't born on second or third base. They know the business wasn't given to you. They know you didn't have certain advantages, right, that were given to you and that they can build from ground level zero and get to 10 just like you did. And that's why this conversation is so absolutely important. The other thing is this, right? It saves you time. Because as your business starts to grow, as you start to scale, you're not going to have time to train people one on one. You're not going to have time to train people, train 10 people one on one. You're not going to have time to train people 50 to 100 to 500 people one on one if you think one on one if you're thinking big. Right, you need to give them a track to run on. You need to give them some videos. You need to give them some posts. You need to give them the information they need to duplicate your efforts so they can have your success. And so it saves you time. It's indirect training. That's why this process is so absolutely important. Also, it builds culture. It sets expectations, right? If they see that you or other people you worked with have duplicated your process, have duplicated your activity, and then they're not inclined to question you as much. You tell them, hey, do A, B, C, and D, and you'll have X, Y, and Z. And once again, it's not an academic exercise, not you just talking, right? It's actually them seeing the activity in real time or your past activity and saying, okay, this process works, right? So it helps to build culture and expectations, because here's the thing. When I hear individuals complaining about, it doesn't matter what industry they're in, right? Obviously, I'm speaking of the industry we're in. But when I hear people talking about, hey, people won't listen to me, people won't pay attention to the knowledge and wisdom I'm trying to impart to them. Well, part of your responsibility as a CEO of your business, right, is number one, you have to be able to set expectations. Number two, you have to provide inspiration and motivation. Number three, exampleship, because people are taking inventory of you. And when you document your process, when you document the things that you've done to have success in your business endeavor, then the questions about your credibility goes out the window, right? And so what you want to do is you want to create a situation where there's duplication happening in your business. You don't want people to be calling you 24/7. You don't want a situation where people are questioning your integrity. And I'm not speaking morally, but the process you went through to get to where you're at. Because people want what it is that you have when they first start out with you, right? But they're questioning, can I do this? Is this real? Or is this some random game, right? Some promotion that I'm seeing on Facebook or TikTok or whatever the case may be. And that's why this process is so absolutely important. That's why I'm so dogmatic about it, right? Document your process, document your success story, document your failures, document the activity that you're doing on a daily, you can tell the kid brain is like real right now, right? I'm literally operating from 4 a.m. till today. So you have to forgive me. So you see some duplication in the words I'm using. That's why. Any respect. That's why this process is so important. That's why I'm so dogmatic about it, because I know it's easy to say that's not important. I don't have a team yet. I don't have an organization yet. I have not scaled yet. So why do I need to do these things? It's in preparation for the team that you're going to have. It's in preparation for the advocates you're going to have. It's in preparation for the people who are vested in your success for their own success, right? So you get ready, or you be ready, so later on you don't have to get ready, right? So this, once again, this just isn't a problem within our industry. It's something I see frequently among entrepreneurs in general, right? And this is such an important piece in terms of scaling. It's so absolutely important. If you want to build a business that at some point grows beyond you, right? Where people get the mission, they know what the assignment is, they're willing to be accountable to it, right? And they have the skills to pay the bills. This is like mission critical. All right. So the other conversation that we had, or the other issue that was brought up, was, look, balancing attachment, right? Because when you onboard a new business partner, when you onboard new staff, if you onboard new people within your sales team, within your organization, you get attached to them. Let's be real, right? Because you want to see everybody succeed. But you also have to balance a certain level of detachment as well. And that's the second part of the conversation we had, right? Because my partner that I was talking to was expressing frustration with the fact that they were onboarding new individuals and they weren't getting the results they expected. They were pouring their time and energy and trying to help people level up, but they were feeling frustrated and almost willing to quit on the ideal of bringing on new partners, bringing on new personnel, bringing on new staff. And right, this is a conversation I have ad nauseum across the board, whether it's within my business or industry or whether it's with working with other entrepreneurs, right? And what I said was simply this. Number one, I wanted to add a little bit of perspectives. So what I shared was, look, what is the percentage of American households? What is the percentage of individuals who earn a six-figure income, not revenues, earned a six-figure income on a consistent basis, right? And if you Google it or chat GBT it, it's going to say it's going to say roughly 10%. That's what you're going to find out. Now, I believe that number is much lower because a lot of people are not operating on the grid, right? They're not showing up for surveys. They're not participating in a way in which they can be accounted for. I believe the number is much lower. I think if you really were to take inventory, excuse me, of most families, most households, I think the number is actually below 10%. I think it's 5%. People have a good year. People get laid off and family issues, divorce, all that fun stuff, right? And then things go haywire. And then the next question I asked was, well, how many entrepreneurs or business owners do you believe take home six figures, right? And we know that according to, once again, Google or the SBA, they say 50% of business owners take home six figures. I think once again, the number is lower than that because the bottom line is, once again, most people don't show up on the radar. They start up businesses and they don't document, right? And there's a lot of different things to go into that. I really believe the number, quite frankly, is less than 10 or even 5%. Most entrepreneurs and business owners don't consistently take home six figures. And so what does that tell you? That tells you that, number one, there's not like some infinite supply of individuals who are out there, right, that you can incorporate into your business that will really move the bottom line, right? What that basically tells you is, if you really think about it, if the number is that small, we're talking about, let's just say 5 to 10%. You got to understand that if you are knocking down that type of income, I wouldn't necessarily say you're elite, but you are definitely above the curve. And people who earn that type of income in business, people who earn that type of income from their jobs, you have to understand that, number one, their habits are different. Their mindsets are different. The frameworks in which they operate different. Their beliefs are different. Their modus operandi is different. They're different types of James and James, right? And you have to understand that because of that dichotomy between achievers and non-achievers, or people who they already come to the table developed, you have to understand that, look, you may have to indirectly or directly prospect 100 people to find one of those individuals. And then that's also assuming that once you find one of those individuals, that they're actually passionate, they're willing to be accountable, and doing to learn the skills or the talents to pay the bills, right? And so what am I saying to you indirectly? If you have not interviewed, if you have not onboarded at least 100 people, then you really don't have the right to complain about whether or not you found the right people, right partners, or personnel to help you grow your business. That's just the reality of the matter, right? And so the other thing I shared was this, right? Market makers, go-getters, people who move the needle. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to lean into them and tell them what to do. If they're hungry, they'll pass the test. What's the test? When you bring on new personnel, new talent, new business partners, look, you got to put them through small tests and praise them for every forward step. And what might that look like in our business, right? I'm going to speak specifically for our business. Number one, are they showing up to trainings? Because we know the only place where success comes for trainings in the dictionary. They want to learn the presentation. They want to learn how to present the value prop. Are they showing up? Whether it be third-party presentations, whether they're showing up to briefings, Zoom calls, whatever the case may be. Because a person is hungry that wants to get it, they're going to show up. They want to learn that presentation. They want to put their arms on the steering wheel as quickly as possible. Are they showing up? That's a test. Right? Because people will talk. They'll chop all day long. And it's easy, once again, because you want to see everyone have success. You can get caught up in it, right? People chopping and talking. But you have to learn a certain type of a detachment, right? I've heard people say it like this, your actions are speaking so loud, right? That your words don't even matter. I can't even hear your words because of your actions. You got to give people tests. You have to give people an exposure assignment. Here's a video. Here's a tool. Here's some marketing content, some marketing artifacts. In our business, we have our online tools, right? Are they willing to take that tool and you challenge them to invite 2, 5, 10 people to learn about it over the course of a day? And you sit back and you watch them, right? You have to be married to the activity. You have to be married to a person's work ethic, their willingness to get it in. You can't get too caught up on people's aspirations and what they talk about, because your commitments are reflected in what it is that you're willing to do. Are they willing to watch that video? Are they willing to drive 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to learn what it is they need to learn to excel and achieve? Right? Are they willing to show up? And when you give them assignments, are they willing to actually follow through on the assignments? And you need to watch that. And if they follow through, if they give the effort, you applaud that, right? Because snowflakes turn into snowballs. People might not always come to you complete, but if they're attracted to the mission, they're attracted to what it is you do, and they're willing to be accountable to it. And if they don't have all the skills, but they're willing to put forth the effort, you applaud that. And you pay attention. If you give people assignments, if you ask them to show up, if you ask them to do certain things and they don't do it, they're telling you, forget their words, they're telling you by their actions whether or not you should be investing time with them. So you got to attach to the activity and detach from people's words, because everybody wants to win. But let me give you something tough. Not everybody deserves to win. If you have a solid product, a solid value prop, and we have a solid product, we have a solid value prop, we have 50 years of producing thousands of individuals who achieve phenomenal success, who've been able to change their lives and change the legacy, the trajectory of their families. Don't spend time trying to convince people of the opportunity. You spend time trying to find out whether or not they actually deserve it to work with you. Because you don't have to question whether or not you're legit. You don't have to question whether or not you're changing people's lives. You don't have to question whether or not they should spend their time with you. This is such an important piece, right? And I'm going to say it once again. Everybody wants it, but not everyone's willing to pay the price. Not everyone is willing to prove deserve it. And so that's the conversation I had. I was like, you can't get brokenhearted over people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So if they're not willing to study, they're not willing to learn, they're not willing to be coachable, they're not hungry for the information, not willing to put in the work. This is entrepreneurship. This ain't a W-2 job. And when you're just starting out as an entrepreneur, you're growing from a team of me to a team of we, it's not a W-2 situation. You got to deal with people who are hungry, who want to level up, right? So don't feel brokenhearted over people who are not willing to pay the price. And here's the other thing I'll leave with you before I wrap up, because I see this a lot, and it's another way to think about it. We all know people who are in bad relationships. It is what it is, right? They're in bad relationships. And they're steady complaining about the bad partner, the person that just comes up short every single time. They're not supportive. They're counterproductive. They're antithetical. They make things more difficult. And you'll hear people complaining about them. It's the same thing in business. They're complaining about the people they're surrounded by. They're complaining about the people that they're working with. They're complaining about A, B, C, and D. You just name it, right? And what I want you to consider is why you're complaining about the people that you're surrounded by, why you're complaining about the people who are not the right partner and not the right fit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're repelling those individuals that you want to work with. You're repelling the quote unquote good ones. You're repelling the partner that wants to be with you. Because nobody wants to be around an environment of BS.com negativity and complaints. And so if you're working with someone and they're not proving themselves deserve it, if they're continually failing the tests, Sometimes you gotta let those people go. You gotta funnel them into the system and not necessarily give them all of your time because they're not proving themselves deserve it. You gotta give your time to the people who support you. You gotta give your time to the people who support the mission, who understand the assignment, right? Which is creating environments of opportunity, helping people use entrepreneurship as a means to empower themselves, to take control of what happens at their kitchen tables, that have influence what happens in their communities, right? You spend your time with those people. And look, let me tell you again, those people, they don't want to run, they don't want to be around the BS.com. They want a track to run on. They want to know there's people having success. They want to know there's people having fun. They want to be around people who are showing receipts. And if you're complaining about the negative Nancy, if you're complaining about the person that you wed yourself to that doesn't deserve to be wed to you, you're going to repel those. You want to attract those people. And so once again, if those people that you're working with aren't passing the test, you got to be willing to move on. You got to be willing to find people who are willing to be, once again, accountable. They know the assignment and they're willing to learn the skills and develop the talents to pay the bills. So with that being said, everyone have a fantastic evening. As always, I celebrate your success in advance. Goodbye for now.